Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am live today. We're going to be talking about how you can hack shift work. You know, I was asked this question the other day by a couple of guys I work with, and I told them, dude, you got to get off of this horrible shift. You're working, 9 p.m. to 7 in the morning, and this thing is killing you, and you don't even know it. You actually like it. You think it's kind of a badge of honor to be working nights, but I'm sad to tell you that for police officers, firefighters, EMS, surgeons, any people like that, they have a higher risk of cancer, and actually it's even presumptive. Like if you look in our kind of like job classification, like under police officer or firefighter, like people that are working shift work, yeah, they actually consider it presumptive to get cancer. They don't really talk about it until you get it and you're happy because you're covered, but it's not something you really want to get. And so I got some ideas of how we can prevent that and some little hacks that'll kind of mitigate some of the effects of shift work. But studies have come out already. You've got nurses, they've just studied 15 to 18% of them are at a higher risk of heart disease. And another study done by chronobiology just showed that strokes are predominant in people that are working shift work. And what's the reason behind that? Well, the reason behind that is you're having circadian rhythm disruptions, right? You have a sleep-wake cycle that's totally dysregulated and not in tune with what we're used to, our normal sleep-rest cycle, right? So that's the issue that we're seeing. And today, so that's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover kind of why it's bad. We're going to talk about mitochondria and why that's important. Then we'll talk about circadian rhythm. We'll talk about your eyes and why the eyes are so important with circadian rhythm regulation. Then we'll get into some artificial lights, blue lights. We'll talk a little bit about the gut, what you can do about it, some supplements I recommend. We'll talk about sleep timing, then we'll wrap the whole thing up. But let's go right into, I already talked about why it's bad. Let's talk about mitochondria. Now, why is mitochondria important? The thing about mitochondria is this, it's bacteria in our cells that produce energy. What I like to call them is these are our power plants, right? And anytime people hear about ATP, which is what mitochondria produces, everyone kind of thinks, oh, okay, that's energy. So you always hear athletes and endurance people talking about how do I get more ATP? And you need ATP when you're trying to fight off a cold or inflammation or anything like that. You need a lot of it, and mitochondria is responsible for that. So the problem with circadian rhythm disruptions, or our circadian rhythm being off, is that it directly impacts our mitochondria. And that's why you see a lot of people with mitochondria dysfunction having degenerative diseases, tons of inflammation, and cancer. So we need to upregulate our mitochondria and figure out ways that we can do that so that we are not falling victim to this shift work, right? And so one of the things that we need to look at with mitochondria is, let's look at the circadian rhythm and some of the hormones that are associated with this circadian rhythm. So one of the big ones is serotonin, you've got melatonin, and then you've got cortisol. So serotonin is a building block of melatonin. Now, everybody knows melatonin because melatonin's like the fad right now. Everybody knows, like, oh yeah, if I just take a little bit of extra melatonin, I'm going to sleep better. And a lot of people are overdosing it and using it incorrectly. But what you need to know about serotonin is that serotonin is a building block for melatonin, right? Serotonin is kind of like the hype man for melatonin. Serotonin is like the guy getting melatonin pumped up so that at nighttime you can sleep nice. So how do we get serotonin? The easiest way to get it is from daylight light exposure. Now, if you're working shift work, and I know a lot of you are, like, what are your hours? I see a lot of people working like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or they're working 9 p.m. to 7 in the morning. If you're working those hours, a lot of you guys probably aren't getting sun exposure in the mornings, right? I mean, I remember when I used to work that shift, I mean, at the latest, I would probably, let's see, if I went to bed if I got off at 7, got home by 8, because everyone's got an hour commute, I would be up at maybe 2 p.m. at the latest, get a little bit of sun if I'm lucky, but then I'm at work, right? I'm going to work, I'm starting my day, and then I'm not really seeing the sun. So it's really critical that we get that daylight exposure early in the morning, ideally between 9 to 11, and I'll explain that later. But we want to get that exposure to the sun early in the morning so that we can get that serotonin. And if we have enough of that, then it'll build a sufficient amount of melatonin so that you can sleep well at night. Now, why is melatonin important? Well, melatonin is associated with youthfulness, it's an antioxidant, and it's showed to be great for sleep. So we need a lot of melatonin. So that's one of the reasons why having that circadian rhythm disruption is so problematic. Now, let's move on to the eyes. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, why would we talk about eyes? I mean, what does that have to do with sleep regulation? Well, let me tell you, you'd be surprised, but the eyes, other than the heart, the brain, and if you're a woman, your ovaries, this is the next area with the most dense amount of mitochondria, which is why I talked about it earlier, and how we need these power plants, we need these things producing energy. So you gotta imagine, if the eyes are not functioning well, then you're gonna be leaking a lot of energy. You're gonna be expending a lot that you don't need to. And what they've shown is that the visual system is actually responsible for 15% of that energy production. So if we're not doing a good job of managing our mitochondria, managing how we're taking in things with our eyes, then we're going to have issues with energy production, brain fog, and how we feel overall. So here's the deal. With your eyes have a clock, and a lot of people don't know that. They have a clock just like your organs have a clock, just like the way your body regulates itself on this circadian rhythm, so does the eye. The eye has the eye clock. And what the eye likes to get is between, like I said earlier, between 9 and 11, it likes to get that morning sun. And what that does is between those hours, it regulates, it puts it back on system. Okay, it's daytime, I need to be awake right now, and it's getting the various rays of sun inside. So the eye needs that, and it needs a certain amount of UV rays. Now, what we're seeing a lot with people that are doing shift work is, they're not getting that morning light, right? They're just completely not getting it. And the problem is with the sun is it has many different kind of rays, right? You've got like a blue spectrum ray, a red, a purple, a green, a yellow, and orange. So your eye is seeing all these various spectrums. Now, what we're seeing instead is that you're not getting that because you're not even up during those hours, or you're just not going outside. You're not going outside till it's dark. And instead we're getting a huge increase of what's next is artificial blue light. So the artificial lights are things that everyone's talking about now. It's LEDs, fluorescent lights. The big hype is, hey, this is great because it's a lot less, it's more energy efficient, so everybody likes it. The problem is it's predominantly loaded with blue light, and it's really taxing on our eyes. It's really a lot for the eye to process. A lot of energy is wasted. So your eyes need that break. And if you can imagine that the eyes are connected to mitochondria, then we're wasting a lot of energy just getting this blue light coming in our system. And if we're losing and leaking energy through mitochondria, remember I said, hey, that's how we have degenerative diseases, that's how we get cancer, that's how we get all these things that are happening to people, such as macular degeneration with their vision. So we really want to be, mitigating the effects of blue light, and you can do that by, putting like screen protectors. They make screen protectors for your screen to kind of take out some of the blue light. You can wear blue blocker glasses, which you'll see me doing at work. I'll look like a goofball, but you get to see, you're reducing that eye strain, and you're reducing the amount your body has to waste energy. So it's super critical, right? And another thing you could actually do is take a set of red lights, LED red lights, and you could put them, in an area where you're exposed to all this blue light, and you could just use that to kind of balance out the light spectrum to make it easier on your eyes. Okay, so let's talk about the gut. I'm going to talk about this briefly. Earlier, I mentioned serotonin. And by the way, are you guys enjoying this? If you're enjoying this, please say something. Comment, like, share. I am going to, I should have mentioned this earlier, I'm going to do some giveaways. So anybody that is, when I get to supplements, I'm going to talk about some of my key supplements. I'm going to give some of those away. So if any of you like, what I'd like to see you do is just share this with somebody else, take a screenshot, throw it in the comments, and I'll ping you after this video is done, and I'm going to send you some of the supplements that I like. So back to the gut. What we had talked about before is, hey, look at, everyone's starting to notice, hey, the gut actually connects with the brain. There's this gut-brain connection, and scientists are starting to learn is that the gut is responsible for a lot, like more than we ever thought. So guess what? Serotonin, that building block to melatonin that I had mentioned earlier, yeah, 95% of it is formed in the gut. So we need to be taking care of our guts. And one study even showed that, hey, participants that were seen on a 10-hour flight, so they measured their jet lag, and they went over like a 10-hour flight during multiple different time zones, and what they found from this study was that the microbes in people's guts had changed to that of diabetics and obese people, just from this time shift. So you can imagine, by disrupting our circadian rhythms, how much is that play with our hormones, our gut, and how we sleep. And that's why you always hear a lot of people saying, oh man, I'm jet lagged, I'm not sleeping well. And it's the same thing, but if you think about these first responders or these neurosurgeons or anybody that's doing shift work, they're all getting taxed severely with this circadian disruption, and they're getting taxed every day. It's not just one flight here and there. So we need to be treating our gut very well. And there's really no way around this when you think about shift work. You can't really do anything, but you need to be aware of like how you treat your gut, what you put in your gut. I would be making sure I'm getting a lot of fermented foods, bone broth, maybe some probiotics. We want to be taking care of our gut because it's correlated directly to serotonin and melatonin. So let's just remember that. And then some of the things you can do about it, right? Let's get into the hacks. Let's get into things that we can do to help regulate some of this dysfunction in our lives. I kind of had mentioned it already with the blue light glasses. I would recommend that everybody, when they wake up in the morning, one of the easiest things you can do is just go out in the morning, make your cup of coffee. If you're waking up at 2 p.m., make your cup of coffee and then just go outside and get some sun exposure. Let the sun hit your eyes for 3 minutes. And that's all it's going to take to kind of help regulate that rhythm. The other thing is we've all created this aversion to the sun. Everyone says, oh man, the sun is causing cancer, so I got to wear sunscreen. Okay, and then, we wear sunglasses. And that's a whole other issue, because what's happening with the sunglasses is they're tricking your brain to thinking it's dark, which is already messing up your circadian rhythm. And then if you're not wearing a UV protected brand, what's happening is you got to imagine the pupils are opening wide so that they can take in the sunlight that's not coming through, because they want to be able to see more. And if it's not a UV protected brand, then you're getting all that UV light and you're getting a ton of stress that way too. So I would take off the sunglasses, and matter of fact, I'd take off my shirt or something in the morning and at least just get 20 minutes of sun that's going to hit my entire body. Because when you think about it, if you're doing shift work, what are you doing? You're waking up way later in the afternoon. You're submitting yourself to toxic blue light all throughout the evening. You're getting no sun, and then we're always wearing clothes, always, and you never get that energy from the sun. And what I'll touch on later as we kind of move down this list of things you can do, you want to start thinking about your body as a battery. And we don't really think about that, right? We've kind of gone away from that. And you want to be thinking that, hey, how do I keep this charged battery? How do I keep this ATP, this energy? You need a couple things, and I'm going to boil it down. You need water and you need sunlight. And that's something that we don't get a lot of. We created this phobia about cancer, skin cancer, and moles and all this stuff, that we're not getting enough sun. So you need to be getting at least 20 minutes. Remember, you want to build that serotonin so that it can build melatonin in the evening. So again, limit your blue light exposure. I'd be wearing blue locking glasses.